In this video, why Californians need Mexico residency. I'm often surprised when I speak to people from California and they don't see the strategic importance of having residency or citizenship in a Plan B in Mexico right on your doorstep. In 2025, with the economic pressures mounting and remote work booming, thousands are making the leap. Stick around as we unpack why Mexico residency is a game changer for Golden State residents, from visa hacks to hidden gems. This could be your ticket to a smarter, sunnier future. The connection between California and Mexico runs deep, predating modern borders and shaped by a shared history that makes residency feel like a natural extension rather than a radical move. Indigenous ties linked the regions for centuries, but the 1848 Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo formalized the border after the Mexican-American War, ceding California to the U.S. while fostering cross-border migration. In the 20th century, waves of Mexican immigrants built California's economy in agriculture, construction, and tech, creating binational families. And by the way, if you have a parent or even grandparent born in Mexico, you should get citizenship in Mexico, citizenship by descent. We have multiple videos on this channel about how to get citizenship in Mexico if your parent or grandparent or spouse was born in Mexico, so check that out. Coming back to the story, by the 1980s, reverse migration began as retirees sought warmer climates and lower costs in Baja California. The 1994 NAFTA agreement boosted economic ties, easing trade and travel, while the 2010 saw a surge in digital nomads and expats fleeing California's housing bubble. Fast forward to 2025, where California's median home price hovers at around $850,000 versus Mexico's $200K on average, and state taxes in California biting deep. It's insane what they're charging in property taxes and state taxes and everything in California. Mexico starts making more and more sense as a Plan B. Over 1.5 million Americans now live in Mexico, many from California, drawn by the proximity. San Diego to Tijuana is just 20 miles. And policies in Mexico are very welcoming to foreigners and especially Americans. Recent data shows a 20% uptick in U.S. expat residency applications pretty much every year the past 5 years, fueled by inflation, political uncertainty, and remote work flexibility. Obtaining residency in Mexico as a U.S. citizen is straightforward and accessible, especially for Californians with consulates in LA, San Francisco, Fresno, Sacramento, just all over the state. There's over a dozen consulates, I believe, in the state of California. In 2025, there's basically two main paths to residency. You can get temporary or permanent residency, both under the economic solvency criteria, to prove that you won't burden the system. So for a temporary residency, you'll need to prove monthly income of around $4,100 US after taxes every single month for the last 6 months. Or you want to show savings of about $68,000 every month for the past 12 months. Most people use savings to apply. It's a little bit easier from a documentation perspective. So 68K, 70K in savings. And yes, you can combine different accounts. You can even use 401ks, IRAs, brokerage accounts, etc. to get to that 70K number. Now, if you want residency in Mexico, MyLatinLife, we're a full-scale immigration consultancy. That's what we do. We get people residency and citizenship in Mexico. So if you'd like to get the process started, there's a link in the description to book a call with us. We'll answer all your burning questions, and we can put this residency card in your hands. It's an absolute no-brainer, as you'll see as we continue this video. And by the way, if you have family ties to Mexico, of course, that accelerates this. If you marry a Mexican, if you have a child in Mexico, that can grant immediate permanent residency. Applications start usually at the Mexican consulate in California. As we mentioned, there's consulates all over the state. We can make the appointment for you and everything. Prepare your documents in the right way that the Mexican government needs to see it. Once approved, exchange your visa for a residency card in Mexico. You'll basically get a wallet-sized card showing that you're a resident in Mexico. And once you have that, you can open bank accounts in Mexico. You can get a driver's license in Mexico. And no Spanish test is required initially, and no physical presence is required initially either, other than just renewing the card, making it an ideal plan B. You can hold it without living there full time, though you must visit every few years to renew the card. We have a client, he's living in Argentina. He hadn't been to Mexico in like 3 years, and then he showed up just before his card expired, and they renewed his card with no problems. Citizenship is possible after 5 years or 2 years with ties, offering dual nationality since Mexico allows it. As of July 2025, requirements remain stable. The requirements have been the same for a number of years now, 18 months of physical presence in a 24-month period, if you want to be on track for citizenship. The cost of living is also a massive draw, with Mexico slashing expenses by at least 50%, if not 80%, compared to California. In 2025, Numbeo, which is a pretty well-known website for cost of living, it pegs the cost of average monthly living cost for a single person in Mexico at $978 US versus $2,500 in the US, with California even higher at around $3,000 a month average monthly cost for a single adult. So you're comparing $978 with $3,000, and even that sounds low for California. Rent in Mexico can obviously differ massively depending on if you want to be on the beach, if you want to be in Mexico City, Baja California versus southern Mexico. But one cool thing about California is you have direct flights to all over Mexico. So you have the option both to drive or to fly. Healthcare shines too. Private health insurance is very cheap in Mexico, could be as low as $200 to $400 annually. Dental work is famously very cheap, $30 for a checkup versus $200 plus in California. Utilities are very cheap in Mexico. Electricity is rather cheap. Transportation is extremely affordable. Uber is much more affordable. Groceries are affordable. Pretty much everything in Mexico is going to be cheaper than in California, maybe with the exception of iPhones and some consumer electronics, but that's pretty much the only thing. Rent is going to be substantially cheaper, everything we've talked about here, and these savings allow Californians to internationalize your assets. You get to diversify into Mexico, hedging against US economic dips. Plus, you probably won't need to pay taxes in Mexico either, depending on how you've structured things, depending on how much physical presence and also economic presence you have in Mexico. We have other videos on the channel about tax residency in Mexico, so you can check that out as well. Proximity makes Mexico an unbeatable plan B. Driving from San Diego to Ensenada in a couple of hours, or flying LAX to Mexico City in 3 hours, this next door factor means easy visits home for family, business, or emergencies. It's so much easier to get home compared to far-flung destinations like Portugal or Brazil. So internationalizing your life, it's going to reduce risks, and it just makes sense to go next door first. In volatile times, residency in Mexico can be a safe haven for yourself, for your family, for your assets, with Mexico's stable economy and neutral geopolitics. Healthcare access is top tier. Healthcare is so much better in Mexico. It's unbelievable. And lifestyle perks abound. You have better food, rich culture, year-round warm weather, and hobbies are much cheaper as well. Golf is much cheaper, horseback riding, sailing, whatever you want to do as a hobby. It's so much cheaper in Mexico that it makes it finally affordable. As a plan B, Mexico is a safeguard against the US uncertainty like political shifts or recessions. Many hold residency as an escape hatch while maintaining ties in California. Again, you don't have to get up and move to Mexico for Mexico residency or citizenship to make sense to you. You can keep living your normal life in California if you're happy where you are, if you're happy paying, 13% state tax and all the rest of it. If you can't leave for whatever reason, maybe you're a lawyer or a doctor and you're sort of stuck with the Law Society and you can't deregister. There's lots of reasons people can't leave California, but you don't have to in this angle that we're discussing here, where you can have Mexico residency as a plan B, as a backup plan. And at very least, it's a fun story to talk about at the cocktail parties, how you're a resident of Mexico. So let's say you're convinced. What are some popular destinations for Californians? Well, a lot cluster near the border or in the coastal havens, right? Blending familiarity with the exotic appeal. Baja California tops the list. Rosarito, Ensenada, they offer beachfront living at $1,000 a month. English is very prevalent. You have that California-like surf culture. Tijuana is attracting young urban professionals. It's kind of got that urban, hipsterish vibe with craft breweries and tech hubs and everything. Puerto Vallarta is very popular down in Jalisco. The entire state of Jalisco is very popular, including into Nayarit state there and Nuevo Nayarit. So a lot of people like that area. Mazatlan, another Pacific Coast city that I'm rather fond of. You have Oaxaca on the Pacific Coast as well. You have Mexico City. I find that people from California really don't make it over to the Caribbean very much. So someone from California, you see them usually on the Pacific Coast, and then you see East Coasters like New Yorkers and Canadians, the Caribbean side. So that's kind of my experience. Maybe the listener, whoever you are watching this, maybe you'll buck the trend as a Californian and go to the Caribbean and go hang out in Playa del Carmen. But in my experience, most Californians opt for the Pacific Coast or maybe the interior of Mexico City, Guanajuato, San Miguel de Allende. So how good is Mexico residency as a plan B? Overall, it's highly effective for California. It's great for affordability. It's easy. It's not that expensive. It's basically a no-brainer due to the low physical presence requirements and also the potential positives, where you have the potential for dramatic savings. You have a plan B for your family. You can lower your expenses. You can have better healthcare. You can have access to things in healthcare that you don't have access to in the US. I mean, famously, tons of people, they go get their prescriptions and stuff over the border in Mexico because prescriptions are so much cheaper in Mexico. Any kind of Medicare, supplements, medical things that you want to do, the private care rivals US standards at a fraction of cost. And then you have big community in Mexico. You have tons of expat hubs, digital nomad hubs. You have retiree hubs, which are sometimes different. Sometimes there's retiree hotspots in Mexico, places like Lake Chapala. And then you have digital nomad hotspots for the younger crowd. To maximize Mexico as a plan B, start with temporary residency. Basically what happens is you typically get 1 year temporary to start. Then that will renew for 3 more years of temporary residency. And after 4 years total of temporary residency, that will renew to permanent residency. Okay, so you're looking at maybe 3 trips to Mexico over the course of the next 4 years as you work towards permanent residency. And being in California, these trips to Mexico are super easy. You can go by land or you can fly. So if you're interested in pursuing residency, again, there's a link in the description where you can book a call with us to get the residency process started. Overall, Mexico residency is a stellar plan B for Californians in 2025. It's a great way to internationalize, whether you're a digital nomad, an expat, or a retiree. Getting residency in Mexico super makes sense for Californians. And if you have any stories about this, leave them in the comments below. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe. See you in the next video.